So today we're doing a review and a spoiler chat for the book Lady Smoke by Laura Sebastian. The review portion of this video is not going to contain any spoilers, even though it is the sequel to Ash Princess. I'll make sure that I don't say anything that gives away any information for those of you who haven't picked up the first one. The setup for this series is that we follow a young girl named Theodosia. She's 16 years old and she's the heir to the kingdom of Astrea, which was conquered by their enemies known as the Calavaxians. The Calavaxians only keep her alive to use against her people. If at any point there is an uprising starting to form, if there's any kind of a rebellion, they publicly beat Theodosia, they whip her, they do terrible things to her in front of her people to try and prevent her people from ever actually doing anything. Theodosia, when you first meet her, is kind of stuck between having these two identities of knowing that she is the heir to this throne and wanting to do something for her people, wanting to do something for herself, but also being this broken person who has been forced to endure these terrible things, and she is kind of deciding, no, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something for myself. I'm going to rescue myself, and I'm going to try and help my people. And by rescue myself, I don't mean like, oh, to prove a point about women saving themselves. I don't mean that. I just mean she's in a terrible situation, and she finally comes to the conclusion, this is terrible, and I need to do something about it. I have absolutely no problem admitting that this book, the premise is not necessarily wholly original. It is not mind-blowing for the fantasy genre, but I think it is extremely enjoyable. If you like scheming, if you like political intrigue, and if you like your characters being forced to decide on some pretty unfortunate choices, I think that you would really enjoy this. This first one, Ash Princess, that I read in a very short amount of time. I didn't find that there was hardly any action, but it didn't seem to matter because the pacing of the story and the stakes were always at a point where I was interested and I wanted to keep reading. I do think, though, that if you are looking for something that is extremely unique and is extremely original, you're not probably going to find that necessarily in this story, not just based off of the premise, but there are some tropes that I think are done well, but they're there. And so if you're the kind of person that wants something super original, this might not be the book to satiate that need. For me, personally, I rarely get tired of the heir trying to take back their throne. I absolutely love that trope. I can't really get enough of it, so it definitely was a fun read for me. And I thought there was enough emotion in the story, and like I said, the stakes were high and the pacing was done so well that I found it very enjoyable. Definitely can see where it wouldn't be for everybody, but if you're looking for something like this, you should definitely pick it up. As for some non-spoilery thoughts about the second one, I thought it was just as entertaining, and I think it sort of expanded on the world a little bit, which I really enjoyed. I think the romantic elements that are fairly prevalent in the first one took a bit of a back seat in the second one. I also enjoyed that. And I also thought that the magic was a bit more of a part of the story in the second one. It's mentioned in the first one. We kind of know a little bit here and there about the magic in the first one, but in the second one we are starting to learn more about it, and once again, I liked that. So I definitely was a fan of the second one. Now getting into spoilers for the second one, so if you don't want to be spoiled, stop watching. So my spoilery thoughts are not going to be in any particular order. I'm not going to start from the beginning and go to the end and talk about a playthrough of all my thoughts as the story was progressing. It's not anything like that. It's just I did enjoy this. There was one thing about it that I'm like, come on, Theodosia, don't be such a dummy. But other than that, I really liked the second one. We'll go ahead and start with the thing that Theodosia did that I was very annoyed by, and that was the fact that Theodosia didn't suspect Coltania, if that's how you say her name. She didn't suspect Coltania at all when it came to people getting murdered. And I understand that she thinks it's the Kaiser, but shouldn't she be like a teeny bit more concerned? I mean, this chick is very invested in having her marry her brother, and she obviously is willing to kind of bribe her, and she's willing to sort of kind of scheme to get Theodosia to go down this path. And for Theodosia to not think that Coltania could be a threat at all, I was just sitting there like, how can you be surprised? People have been continuously poisoned by the things that they were eating. The one person that they drank, they thought that he was killed because of his wine, and so there's the poison right there. And then another person, it was well, that death I'm gonna get to in a second, Hua's death, oh, that was sad. But she ate something that was poisoned. So when Coltania offered her tea, I'm like, don't drink that freaking tea. Don't drink the tea. Don't drink the tea. And then she drank the tea. And I was so annoyed with her, because then she's like, what? How could you? Well, obviously you're dealing with people who schemed their way to the top. That's what people have been telling you this whole time. Like, they were elected, and there are rumors that Coltania was a little vicious in how she got her brother to his position. And for Theodosia to not think about that at all. How did she not think about that at all? Also, part of what I really enjoyed about the first one was the amount of times that your hopes would start to rise, and then just this author would shut it down. She would just shut it down, and she did that in this book. When I don't remember his position, but when the one guy where she was like, okay, I will for sure accept your army in exchange for giving you a chess set back. When that whole scene happened, I'm like, this is gonna go terribly wrong. And it immediately went terribly wrong. And I will say, I didn't care for the fact that title of that chapter, I think it was Murder. I think that was the title of that chapter. And I'm like, all right, well, now I know someone's gonna die in this chapter. And as we're finding out that he's offering her help, I'm like, okay, this dude's gonna die. It could have been a little more impactful if the title hadn't been so obvious, the title for that chapter, but still a great moment, still one of those, shoot, you just fell for the character in that moment. The most emotional part of this book for me, though, was Hua's death. I didn't see that coming. I feel like I should have seen it coming because it was too happy. It was too good of a moment for her to finally have her freedom. She can finally speak. She's reunited with Theodosia, and I'm like, finally some stuff is going well, which that should have been a sign. I don't know, I should insert the like ditzy emoji for me not getting that she was gonna die. I don't know, I'm curious if you guys knew that she was gonna die, but then when she ate the food and then she was dead, that was very sad. I just thought she was going to play more of a role in the story, especially because of the way that when she walked into the refugee camp and she just had this air about her. And I thought maybe she would have this amazing moment where she would be present for the Kaiser's death, or she would get to say something to him before he died, which I'm gonna get to the Kaiser's death in a second, so hold on with that. But I just thought we were setting up Hua's future, and then she died, so that sucked. Kaiser's death, though, like I said, I knew my thoughts for this book were gonna be all over the place. What were your thoughts on the Kaiser's death? Because he has been this looming threat since the beginning of the first book. And then to have it be, I don't know how to say her name, I'm gonna Cress. To have Cress just off him the way she did, I can't tell how I feel about it. I think I'm neutral. Initially I was like, oh man, really? That's how he's gonna die? Because I was kind of looking forward to that moment where Theodosia would finally get that guy after all he's done, after all the terrible things he's done. I thought we would get a moment like that, and that wasn't what happened at all. So I appreciated how unexpected it was, but I kind of wanted the moment where Theodosia got him, or Sauron, because Sauron's had a pretty tough life himself, being the son of a monster. I am, however, pretty fond of the fact that Cress is going to be our antagonist. Obviously, I thought that was going to be a thing after the way the first book ended. It's just she wasn't really in this book until the very end. We get set up for her being a threat in the next book, and that's exciting. I don't really know what the next book is going to be like. I wasn't really expecting this one to be the way it was, but I enjoyed where we went with this one. But the third one, I'm excited to see what goes down, especially if Theodosia, I think it would be really cool. I know she ends in the book going into the mines to try and make herself more powerful, but I kind of want her to be a little less powerful than Cress and have to rely on those around her to help her and have to rely on scheming. All of that stuff that has made me enjoy these books so much, I kind of want that. I kind of want her to not be as powerful and just have to rely on other people and intelligence to beat Cress. I mentioned in the non-spoiler part that I thought the romantic interests that Theodosia has in both Sauron and Blaze took a bit of a backseat in this one in comparison to the first book, and I liked that. It wasn't that it was completely absent, but I definitely thought that Theodosia, her mind was so set on doing what was best for her kingdom. And so she was willing. She actually eventually was willing to consider marrying somebody else for the sake of Estrella. And then her feelings towards Sauron kind of were, I can't have anything with you. And then with Blaze, she cares about Blaze. She clearly cares about him a great deal. And she definitely needs him with her and needs him by her side because he is the only person that has really known her from the beginning. But I liked that it wasn't, which boy do I like more? Which boy is better? It wasn't that at all. It was just, these are two people that are very significant in her life. She definitely cares for them. And as we find out, she definitely loves Sauron. But it wasn't the primary focus of the book. And Theodosia's mindset was more on, what can I do to help my people? With Blaze and Sauron, okay, we're going to talk about Blaze for a second. Laura Sebastian, oh my gosh, did she just push and pull my emotions with this character, because I kept thinking he was gonna die. And it would just, you would think he's gonna die and you're like, oh no, he's gonna have his moment, he's gonna explode basically. And then he didn't, and he was okay. And then he has a moment where it's like, oh no, everything's gonna go wrong. Theodosia's gonna have to kill him. This is gonna be so tragic. And then Artemisia steps in and just knocks him out. And it just kept coming up, and I'm like, when's this guy gonna die? And I don't know. I can't tell if he's gonna live or not in the next one. It sounds like there are hints of people having an immense amount of power but won't die as a result. That's sort of what it seems like. But also, Laura Sebastian kills characters, so I can't tell if Blaze is gonna die. I was a little sad that we didn't get more Sauron in this book. I really, really like Sauron's character. I think he's one of the most conflicted characters, and I really love that about him. I love that he's not a product of his father by any means, but he has been forced to do things and see things that he doesn't want to be a part of, and that just weighs on him so much, and he wants to change, and he wants to be different, and I find that very compelling about his character. And we didn't get a ton of him in this book. Most of his plot line was, I'm imprisoned in some way, but Theodosia, I trust you. I'm very, very curious what your thoughts were on this sequel. For those of you that enjoyed the first book, did you enjoy this sequel just as much? Did you think it was better? Did you not like it as much? And for those of you that just kind of were about the first one, when you read the second one, what did you think? Do you think it expanded on the story, made it better? Or are you like, I don't think this is the series for me? Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope if you pick this up that you enjoy it, and I'll see you all later. Bye.